Hello, I am your host, Dr. Jack Braha, and welcome back to the MedCast Plus show. On the show, we feature local physicians and healthcare providers to educate us on various medical conditions and provide us with some very helpful tips. Today, we welcome Dr. David Stevens, the Chief of Ambulatory Care at New York City Health and Hospitals, Kings County. He is also a primary care physician with extensive experience in treating common chronic conditions, such as hypertension, high blood pressure, or diabetes and asthma. We will spend some time today discussing these common conditions and how New York City Health and Hospitals, Kings County is playing a role in helping the community stay healthy. Welcome to the show, Dr. Stevens. Really nice to have you.
Thank you.
Pleasure, and an honor to have you here with us, because some of the conditions we just talked about are seen in nearly every household. I think it's hard to find one of us who doesn't know somebody with high blood pressure or diabetes. Cholesterol is very common. And these conditions are important to our viewers today, so we're going to delve into them. But before that, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how did you get where you are now?
Sure, thanks. Well, I was born in Brooklyn. I was born and grew up starting in Coney Island. Then I lived in Staten Island and finally went to high school in Long Island. Made it to all the big major islands of New York. And then I went to medical school. I went to medical school at NYU. And then I did my training at Johns Hopkins in general internal medicine. And since then, I've been back in New York. I've been working for the New York City Health and Hospital System ever since I got out of residency.
So a long time working with the healthcare system here in New York City.
Right.
And now you're here in Brooklyn, one of the largest cities, if it was its own city in America, and quite a bit of health problems here that New York City Health and Hospitals, Kings County, is working to help treat, fix, and keep our county healthy. Most of us look at a hospital as a place to go when we cut our finger, we fell down the steps, we're having chest pain. It's a place to run to when we're having an emergency. The ambulance takes us to the hospital. But not everybody looks at a hospital beyond that as a place to go to stay healthy. Even if you're feeling great today, riding your bike across the Brooklyn Bridge, no chest pain, going to the gym, you feel great. People don't realize the importance of getting preventative care. And so the hospital is not just a place to go to for emergencies, but there are parts of the hospital system that help people stay healthy so they don't need the ER, so they don't need an operation. Tell us a little bit about how Kings County is approaching this preventative care, primary care type opportunity for patients.
Yeah, well, Kings County's mission is to take care of its community, to ensure that our community gets the best care they need to stay the healthiest and to live the longest, best life possible. Sometimes that's in getting care in the emergency room, the heart attacks, accidents, sometimes that's surgery. But a lot of what we do to keep people healthy is to prevent illness. The two most important things that we do to keep people healthy and living longer and better are preventive care. That's things like vaccines, adopting healthy lifestyles, screening for cancer, and then there's chronic disease control. And as you mentioned, everybody you know has got something. And the statistics are that most people in their life will develop at least one chronic illness. Sometimes it's something common like hypertension or diabetes. Sometimes it's something more rare. But if we go after those chronic illnesses with our patients and we get them controlled, we can help our patients live feeling better, so they're not feeling the effects of these illnesses, and preventing the complications so they don't get the heart attacks and the strokes that come as complications of things like diabetes and hypertension.
And you mentioned a key phrase that patients in my own practice ask me all the time: how do I stay healthy? How do I stay, quote unquote, better? How do I live a healthy lifestyle longer? And so when you talk about preventing heart attacks, strokes, I mean, these are the things that are on most people's minds because, as you mentioned, it's hard to find someone in this country, in this county here in Brooklyn, who doesn't know a relative or a friend who had a heart attack or a stroke or cancer. And so being able to get ahead of these diseases is important. In the clinics, when they come to the doctor's office, we all know someone puts a blood pressure cuff on our arm and they check our blood pressure, they look in our eyes, they tap on our bones and our reflexes, and they feel our bellies. And while it may not take very long to do this, it's so important. When someone is 20 years old, 30 years old, and they feel fine, is this the time to start primary care, start seeing a doctor, or should they wait till a later age? When should someone now reach out and say, hey, I should go get a checkup with you?
Well, I think basically at all ages somebody should go for an annual checkup. There are things that they can be doing at every age to get themselves healthier. As you said, your patients come in and they say, what can I do to keep myself healthy? And even if you're feeling great, there may be things going on that the doctors can detect. You mentioned checking your blood pressure. That's something that we don't do for ourselves.
And can happen to rise at any age.
At any age, that's right. So getting screened for high blood pressure is important to do at least once a year. There are vaccines that people should be getting. Women should be getting pap tests starting at 18.
Right.
And mammograms starting at 40.
These are things that we're doing when we feel fine.
When we feel fine.
We're
That's
healthy,
right.
we're feeling well. And you mentioned, how do I live longer and live healthy? It's by seeing the doctor when you are doing well to maintain wellness.
That's right.
So let's touch a bit upon these chronic disorders. And that most of us, as you said, will get one. Blood pressure is a silent killer. We most of the time don't feel it. So for our viewers today who might be 20 years old and haven't had their blood pressure checked, or 30 years old and haven't had their cholesterol, haven't had their blood sugar checked, these diseases are often silent in the beginning. So let's start talking a bit about chronic diseases. What can we do for hypertension?
So hypertension, the first thing we can do for hypertension is a healthy lifestyle. A healthy lifestyle can prevent many of the cases of hypertension.
That's true, because I've had patients in practice where they developed hypertension. They took the healthy lifestyle tips that we offered, joining a gym, getting out in the park and running, riding the bike, and losing even just 10 or 15 pounds. They no longer needed the blood pressure pill. We stopped the blood pressure pill after however many months it was because they wanted to see what life was like now without it. And sure enough, slimmer, trimmer, more fit, no longer needed the blood pressure pill. So these are things for the folks watching today. This doesn't always have to involve a pill from a doctor.
Exactly.
Once someone develops high blood pressure, what are some of the risks? What are some of the bad side effects of hypertension that can occur if it goes untreated?
So the things we worry the most about with hypertension or high blood pressure, and we use those interchangeably, heart disease, heart attacks, heart failure, and strokes. Those are the when you talk about the silent killer, that's what's killing you. And many people will think of that they feel fine because they don't feel like they have high blood pressure. And that's what that silent killer phrase means. You don't feel anything. And often you don't feel anything until it's too late, until the heart attack comes or the stroke comes. So these are the number one killers in America still. And often they're preventable.
Right, and with some simple lifestyle changes, or just a pill a day or 2 pills a day,
Right.
you as an internist, a primary care physician, can treat this and can be treated at your hospital's outpatient facilities.
Correct.
Where patients can go and seek care. Another big topic on everyone's minds is blood sugar. Is my sugar high? Do I have diabetes? How does someone know if they have diabetes, or is that also a silent type presentation?
It's almost always silent. Often, sometimes people will show up in the emergency room because they have symptoms of diabetes, but those are symptoms of very high blood sugar. So when your sugar is high enough, you will find that you're urinating more frequently. You may find that it's affecting your vision. But most people these days find out when they get a routine blood test, and they find out that their blood sugar is elevated.
And they're not going to know unless they come to the doctor's office.
That's right.
And so again, something that's silent most of the time, but can easily be detected in your office with a simple blood test.
Right.
You can find out in a day.
Right.
Once someone shows up to New York City Health and Hospital, Kings County Ambulatory Center, they see you or one of your physicians, and they're diagnosed with diabetes. What are the next steps?
What are the next steps? So in fact, it's a lot of the same steps that we talked about for high blood pressure. It's working on a diet, modest weight loss. Like, often people will think I gotta slim down to what I weighed at 16, and many of our patients will come in and they're 200, 220. A weight loss of 10 or 15 pounds really may make a huge difference, may reverse the diabetes. Obviously, we want to try and help them get to their ideal weight, but sometimes just a modest weight loss will make a big difference.
Simple exercise. Nothing, you don't have to be a
Simple
triathlete.
exercise.
You don't have to become a bikini model.
Right.
10, 15 pounds,
Right.
you could do in a couple of weeks.
You could, but it's hard. And I think that is one of the things that we're appreciating, that while we could reverse and control a lot of our chronic illness with diet and exercise, and it seems like a simple recommendation. Here's a pamphlet, don't eat this, don't eat that, go to the gym. It's hard to sustain. Gyms make their money on people who sign up when they're enthusiastic and then they don't show up after.
I find the same in the office when I'm seeing patients. Listen, as physicians, it's easy for us to roll off the tongue, diet and exercise, go to the gym. It's hard to do. I mean, even for us, working the long hours that we do as physicians, I know I miss the gym. I miss getting in there quite frequently. Yep. So we're also victims of the busy lifestyle that we have, especially here in New York. So it's easy for us to say, easy for us to tell patients, and we probably tell 20 patients a day the same advice. Right. But we want people to understand how important this is.
Right.
Getting into the gym, losing the weight, getting into a park and riding your bike, exercising can reverse blood pressure, can reverse diabetes sometimes.
Right.
But there are still people who are going to need medications. There are treatments that involve pills, and I think every day a new diabetes drug hits the TV channel commercials, correct?
Yes.
What are you doing at Kings County that is unique in the treatment of diabetes these days? What can our viewers expect to find that's new and innovative?
Right. Well, what's new is what's old in some ways, because while we do plenty with medications, with insulin, and there's long-acting insulins now that are only once a day. And there's, again, many new medications on the market now. We're also learning how to be smarter to help our patients adopt the lifestyles they need. How do they achieve the weight loss? And we're learning that patients who have struggled with their weight and with adopting healthy lifestyle for years, if we bring them in and they work together in a group of people just like them who've been struggling, they can give each other tips. They can say encouragement to each other, keep each other honest in ways that sometimes the doctor, I see them once every 3-4 months. I can't do that. But if they come in every week as a group and they work together on their diet, often they'll be able to meet their goals. I think so much of health is social. So much of what we do, it's easier to go to the gym if you're going with the gym buddy. Somebody's waiting for you there. You don't want to let them down. You don't mind letting yourself down some days, but you never want to let your buddy down. So I think we've learned a lot how to harness the power of social groups and letting people work together. On the medication front, an interesting area we're trying to move is that there's some emerging evidence that if we recognize diabetes really early in its course and we're very aggressive with the medication and we bring their blood sugars down to normal levels.
That's very exciting. Medicine for diabetes has evolved so rapidly, it seems, over the last decade or so. And there are many options out there for patients. We want to give them the hope that we, as the medical community, physicians and other healthcare providers, can work together to get the blood sugar down, not just with medications, exercise and diet. And I often use this comparison of like a Lamborghini, that a Lamborghini is a fast car. And if you don't drive it though, but you keep putting fuel in the tank, you're going to be standing in a puddle of fuel. Yeah. And the same thing with eating. Your body could be a Lamborghini, but if you don't drive it and exercise it, the fuel, you could put 93 octane in. And if you don't get into the gym, like you said, and burn the calories, it's all for naught. And we were chatting before the show a bit about different diets that might help people with hypertension and hypercholesterolemia, high cholesterol, and high blood sugar. We were chatting a bit about vegetarianism and vegan. What are some of the dietary tips that you're providing to patients now in your clinics? And do you have nutritionists that are working? What is the program? How do patients benefit from nutritional counseling?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, again, what we're learning is that, yeah, there's tons of diets out there. In some ways they all work, and in some ways none of them work. And it really needs to be individualized. And what that means is you may have a patient who is doing 12 things that are wrong. They're drinking sugary soda with breakfast. They're having cookies as snacks. They're eating French fries for lunch. But if you make them a list of all the things they're doing wrong and say, here's what we need you to fix, it'll last about an hour, and you'll see that piece of paper on the floor on the way out. So what we try to do is individualize it. We work with that patient and we say, there's lots of room for improvement in your diet. Most of our patients will know that. They know, they've heard the messages that French fries are not healthy, that junk food's not healthy, that soda's no good for you. But we throw it back at them and say, what do you think would make a difference to you? What do you think you could achieve and sustain? And they'll surprise us. Sometimes they'll pick the easiest thing, but I had a patient I saw a couple of months ago who said, I'm giving up rice. And this is a woman who grew up in the Caribbean. Rice was there on her plate every day since the day she could eat solid food. And she did it. I was shocked. I would never have recommended that to her because I thought, you'll never achieve that. And what she said, if I try to have this much rice, if I try to have the amount of rice that your picture in your pamphlet says, I'm never going to do it. It's never going to last. It's easier for me just to get rid of it, like the potato chip ad. You can't have one.
Right,
That's what rice meant to her. So she's taken the rice off her plate. She's filled it up with some vegetables that she enjoys. She's not eating anything new. She's just taken some of the unhealthy stuff out of the way. That worked for her. That's not going to work for most of my patients. But but throwing it back at them, cutting out soda for somebody who drinks 2 or 3 cans of soda a day, just getting rid of that, that's 600 calories.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
that's
600
a
calories.
week
That may
at
be
least. Yeah.
all it takes. So I think really coming up with not just the education, but the plan that people can live with.
Yeah.
Because we don't want them to go cold turkey and then crash.
I just think it all comes back to that concept of you have to drive the car to burn the fuel, and you got to put the good fuel in.
That's right.
But one without the other.
That's right.
It just never. It won't work. It won't work. And the soda's a big point. There are many things in our lives like cigarette smoking, which we've been told over and over causes cancer, and we need to stop. But the sweetened beverages, the high fructose corn syrups, the high glycemic index foods that we eat, which spike our sugars. When I take a dietary history in my office, I find that if we were just to remove the sweetened beverages for some patients, when you add up the calories, where we say maybe 2,500 calories might equal a pound or so, by just discontinuing those, the weight can come down a pound a week by just replacing it with water.
I think that's very true. I think it's especially important in kids because kids, the juice box is always
Part
at
of
hand,
life, yeah.
and it feels healthy to a parent because it's juice and it's natural and those things are true. But you take the fruit and you squeeze out the juice and you throw away the rest. You're not left with a lot of healthy nutrients. You're left with a lot of sugar. And if the kids get used to that sweetness, it's going to be hard to give up.
It's hard to break that habit. The palate changes to where it only seeks out what we, as physicians, have been telling patients for a long time are unhealthy, high glycemic index foods. So when it comes to diabetes, just to review here for the folks watching, it's not always going to be about medicine, but it's about our bad habits and about what we're proactively doing for ourselves, changing our diet, getting in the gym and exercising. And I like the teamwork approach that you have now at Kings County where you're creating these groups because social medicine, so going with a buddy, going with a group of 5 or 10 people and talking about your diets, getting cooking ideas, bouncing them off each other is really a great idea. I think when we're in isolation, you're right, it's easy to just not show up to the gym and pay the membership, which is what the gym wants.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about the Diabetes Center. There was a ribbon cutting for a diabetes center over at your institution?
Yes. We were very proud. A few weeks ago, we had the ribbon cutting for a new expanded diabetes center. And what we've been able to do is put our clinical practice sites where Our physicians, our nurses, our nurse practitioners provide the clinical care, prescribe the medication, do the blood testing, together on the same floor with a full service educational behavioral program. We've got classrooms where we provide the American Diabetes Association's curriculum. So we send folks back to school, people who have new onset diabetes or have been struggling with it for a while, go sit in a class with 10 or 15 other folks just like them, and they sit and they get notebooks and they write their notes out and they learn, what do I do when I'm feeling sick? What do I eat? What are these medicines that I'm being given? And there's 6 sessions, and they come in once a week. And we've been doing this for years now, and we just, every year, anybody who finishes all 6 sessions comes to our annual graduation. We had that this morning. And we had 120 people sitting in the room, some of whom had reduced their blood glucose and their hemoglobin A1C, which is the blood
marker,
test that measures diabetes, had reduced it to stone cold normal. Not just good, but normal. So that's one of the features that we have. We're also starting the diabetes prevention program, which is kind of what we were talking about before, where we bring people in groups, people who are at risk for diabetes because they're overweight, because they have family histories. And again, that's socialization, setting goals, that's a big part of it. We have a teaching kitchen. So we're giving cooking classes because if people are going to learn and put food on the table at home that they're going to enjoy, that their family is going to enjoy, and is healthy, they've got to learn how to do that. They know how to do the burger and fries. How are they going to learn how to put a salad on the table that people aren't going to turn their noses up? So that we have a full-service teaching kitchen, and we have a teaching gym, because a lot of our patients have been walking past those gyms, never signing up because they don't feel like they would walk in and be at home. They don't feel like they would know how to use this equipment. So they come in and we have trainers who will teach them how to use the equipment, what to set the exercise bicycle on, how to set the treadmill settings on, what dumbbell sizes to use, what exercises to use, so that they can then keep doing this. This teaching gym and teaching kitchen are right next to the exam rooms where the doctors are writing the prescriptions.
What does this cost somebody?
Our patients?
Yes.
So it's all part of the package. You know, being part of the New York City health and hospital system, you know, our mission is to take care of patients without regard to pay. So the education program is, we don't charge the patients for it. We just provide that because we know that if we're going to get our patients to where they need to be, we've got to do more than just write the prescriptions.
That anybody can show up and benefit from.
Right. So the best way to do it is if you don't have a primary care provider, if you don't have a primary care physician, call up Kings County and make an appointment for primary care, and they will send you for what you need. So I can keep going because we have more going on there. We're also, for patients who have not been able to lose the weight despite doing everything they possibly can, and it's really affecting their hypertension, their diabetes, and their well-being, we're actually planning bariatric surgery, weight loss surgery, which we expect to start sometime over the next year.
All involved in this comprehensive center.
All in the same center.
So for viewers watching today who hear about this fascinating service, which sounds like all we've ever wanted to do in medicine for our patients, which is combine education about cooking, how to exercise, how to cure our diabetes, or at least get it under control, is all under one roof. And it's not going to discriminate in terms of who can pay, what insurance. They have to just be linked into your system.
Right.
So they can go to your website, the Kings County, the Health and Hospitals website. Right. They could find this. They could find a number to call. So if you're watching today and you've always wondered about how do I find comprehensive care for my diabetes, I don't know how to conquer my diet or my exercise schedule, here it is.
That's right. Go to the website. Yeah. If you don't have internet access, you can call the city's helpline 4211 and get the information you need and get sent to either Kings County, or if you live in one of the other boroughs, we have sister hospitals and outpatient centers throughout the 5 boroughs.
I love the idea. It's fascinating to me. It seems like everything I've ever wanted for my patients who have chronic conditions like blood pressure or diabetes is to be able to get medically supervised education, not what we find Googling on websites and looking for things that may not have the best credentials on the internet. You know, we have to be very careful of what we find out on the internet, because some websites may claim cures for these diseases that are quote unquote natural but may be very dangerous. So
Right.
seeing a physician at your institution, getting involved in primary care, it sounds like this is one of the most incredible comprehensive care programs. I can't wait to hear how this goes in the future and see the outcomes from it. There's one very interesting program that I want to just let our viewers know about quickly, and we've got a minute or so to touch on this. If they can't afford to buy healthy food, they can't afford to buy the vegetables, it's easier to pay 99 cents for the French fries than maybe a few bucks for a salad, and that can make all the difference for somebody. You have a program to help.
Right. Well, there's a few things we can do. First is we want to make sure anybody who's eligible for SNAP benefits for food stamps gets enrolled, and we will enroll them right on site for that. There's also food pantries that are available throughout the city that don't require food stamps, but they don't always have the most healthy food. Many of them are working on it, but what we're trying to put together is what we're calling a food pharmacy. Again, coming back to this theme that what you eat is just as important as any pills that you may be taking, sometimes more. So we're trying to build on some of the work that other systems in other states have done to link their medical care for people who have diabetes or are at risk for diabetes, and give them prescriptions for healthy food and provide it. We can't provide enough food for the entire family for the week, but we can provide a supply of fruits and vegetables and some other staples, some other whole grains.
This is incredible. I mean, you're offering education, dietary counseling, the ability to obtain the food when possible.
Right.
And so I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking about these fascinating events and fascinating progress at New York Health and Hospital, Kings County. Thank you for coming, Dr. Stevens.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest in our show. I invite you to check our website, medcastplus.com, and connect with us on social media. You can also call us at 718-510-2103. I'm Dr. Braha, and from all of us at Medcast Plus, stay healthy, Brooklyn.